Give you an idea what it looks like at night time.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's festive foxing time. I'm out with the keeper and the HIKMICRO TQ50 Thunder rifle scope after some problem foxes on the shoot.
That's a clunker.
That's a big one.
Look at the size of him.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Team Foxer and another Team Foxer foxing bonanza. Now, before we get straight into the action, what I'd like to do is just take a minute for everybody to have a look here at some targets. Now, these targets in particular, I think, are incredibly impressive. Just look at the tight grouping here. Now, these targets were shot by Cameron and his BSA SE in 177 caliber. And as you can see, the grouping is very tight indeed. Now, it's even more spectacular when you consider that Cameron is just 6 years old. Now, I was so impressed with Cameron's shooting that I messaged his dad, David, and arranged to send over a very special Team Foxer gift just for Cameron in time for Christmas. So I'd like everybody to congratulate Cameron down below, because he is an awesome advocate for country field sports and in particular shooting. Keep up the great work, Cameron. Wishing you and your family a very Merry Christmas. Speaking of which, of course, it is the season of goodwill, and I've been testing the water recently with some local companies trying to get some quality Team Foxer merchandise ready for 2022. Now, I have some prototypes that have got this t-shirt that I'm wearing included, along with this baseball cap. These will be one-offs because on these first edition prints, the logo came out a little wrong, and actually we've got some white inlay here in the Team Foxer logo. So this baseball cap here, I'm going to be giving this one away. Now, as I mentioned, it will be a complete one-off this, so stay tuned a little later in this program to find out how you can win that very cap. Now, I've been very fortunate over the last few weeks to be playing around with HIKMICRO's TQ50 thermal scope. I did a full review on that a few weeks ago, and it's accounted for a good number of foxes. I did have, if you watched the review, a couple of little gripes with it. The battery power is powered by the CR123As. I wasn't really a fan of those. It also took me a few outings to get used to the base mag and how much I would need to zoom in and zoom out, so judging distance with it was a little tricky compared to my usual daytime scope. And then thirdly, zeroing the scope wasn't exactly the easiest thing to do in the world. Not the hardest, but I certainly could have done with things like the freeze frame image that you often get on things like the ATN scopes and other manufacturers. What I am is bowled over by just how impressive this is in the field with a handheld thermal spotter as well. I was always a massive advocate for spotting with thermal and shooting with NV. But since the quality of image on this is so good, I don't even know if my night sight will make an appearance back on this rifle again. And I never thought I'd hear myself say that. And so, along with HIKMICRO's new Gryphon spotter, which we will take a look at in an up and coming episode, they've also sent me another thermal scope, the Panther. Now, this one addresses 3 of the 4 gripes I had about the Thunder. We have a built-in laser rangefinder. We have 18 650 batteries, twice as good as CR123As, more readily available and cheaper to run and buy. Pre-installed with the latest firmware update, which includes freeze frame zeroing. Okay, we haven't quite got the sound yet, but you can't always have everything. I can't wait to get this on the rifle and get back out on the foxes. But for now, there is plenty of action to keep you entertained, so please watch these clips and enjoy, and everybody please have a very, very Merry Christmas. I'll see you real soon. With the shooting season in full swing and on a beautiful autumn evening, it was time for myself and the keeper to quickly check the zero after I'd tightened up all the nuts and bolts and get out on the foxes.
So as you can see, Steve's there, look, putting the target together for me in his nice reflective jacket. It's a very damp, cold, wet evening. Now usually you wouldn't get a very good thermal image on low grade thermal images because damp wet weather, as you can see, is not thermal's friend. When everything's cold and wet like it is now, everything kind of goes the same temperature. I'm still using the external battery pack to give me the best battery life, but I've put it on the back here so if I need to clamp the gun. So I'm now going to look through the scope and give you an idea what it looks like at night time.
Now, having perfected our safety techniques and procedures over several years now, Steve will hold his fingers to where my bullet's gone so I can just simply make the adjustments. It's not until Steve is behind the building will I then chamber the next round and get ready for the shot. I've actually inputted the gun noise here on today's video just because there's no sound recorded on the video, so you'll notice that that sound is always the same. It's for effect. So once I've taken the shot, Steve will come in and tell me exactly where the bullet is because it's hard to see the bullet strike from 100 yards away.
So I've just taken 2 shots out the box at 100 yards. That's a bit high, that is gone through the same hole.
Right, it's slightly high.
Because I want to be somewhere there on top of that tape.
Yeah.
So if we can just pop that back, I'll just bring it down a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say it's slightly high.
It is, yeah.
It takes just a couple of seconds to make the necessary adjustments. Steve gives me the nod and it's all okay and brings the box over to show me what it looks like.
Yeah, let's have a look. So it was a little bit high to begin with.
Perfect.
Oh, look at that. 2 in the same hole and then that there. That is
smack on.
Smack on, exactly where you want it, inch high, 100 yards. Bob on.
Now, believe it or not, it was just a few 100 yards up the road where we made stand number 1. I'd shot a fox here a few weeks ago. In fact, the first fox I'd shot with the hike. This one here comes out at just 97 yards and goes straight down. That was almost bang on my 0.
Is there a stowaway there? Yeah, that's where he is, yeah.
He obviously come through there then, didn't he?
That's where he come.
That's not a bad place there, is it?
And that's good.
Better do that a bit more often there, not just because you got one there, but you can see it off the field.
Hey, check that out.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, 97 yards, that is. Fox again, isn't it?
Nice little fox, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a booty, that is. Look at that.
Yeah.
Looks heavy.
Is it? Every time I'm out with you, I have to put my bleeding machine on. You got a right foul mouth, Stephen. Yeah, good. Oh. Like I said, worth coming out, wasn't it? Top of the landy. Spotted with a hick. Come out of that corner up there. Straight to the call. Vixen in heat, that call, you know. It usually works for dogs, but clearly it worked for the vixen as well. So happy that, good result. Right, on to the next one, shall we?
With the cloud cover having disappeared and the moon nice and bright, fox number 2 came in around 20 minutes later and sat at 303 yards before wandering off. I felt like it was just a little bit too far for me to take and I didn't want to educate a fox. So instead I got myself some food in the form of this unsuspecting hare for Steve's owls before bagging Charlie number 2 for the evening at a whopping 243 yards. It was very quick and I didn't capture it on film.
I'll tell you, that's a long way, Stephen, isn't it?
Yeah. That's a big old dog.
Huge. That is a monster.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Oh, that is. Look at the on it. It's bigger than mine.
Right on the shoulder, look as well. Oh, that is a clonker.
That's a big one.
Look at the size of him.
Oh, look.
Oh,
Look at the neck on it.
that is a bruiser, isn't he?
That's a big fox.
That is. Dog and a vixen. An old hike. I'll tell you what, I'm super loving that thermal scope. That's made you puff a bit, mate, hasn't it?
It has.
243 yards, and that fox is 15, 16, 17 and a half pounder. That is a big one. Look at that. Great result. That's a dog and a vixen, and we've only been out. How long have we been out?
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half. 3 stands, 2 foxes. Great result. On to the next one.
Had I known how easy that one went down at 243 yards, I probably should have taken a stab at the one at 300, but hindsight's a wonderful thing. Coming soon on the channel. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know I've been in the farmer's garden looking for some grey squirrels, and well, I had quite a surprising morning in the end. I say, we crack open the flask and have a nice cup of English tea. What do you reckon?
What do you think to the Gryphon versus the NH19 that you have been using?
Oh, it's a totally different kettle of fish.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Easier to handle?
Yeah, definitely easy to handle. Yeah, no, really good. Very impressed.
Oh, well, we've just had fox number 1 of this evening's session. Stand number 1. At the moment, I'm still using the Thunder, but we've just had fox number 1 at 125 yards, so we're going to walk out and pick that up. You alright?
I think Rick was actually trying to work out how to record there. He was sailing a little bit blind because I'd only received the Gryphon that day and we'd gone pretty much straight out with it. As you can just see a mouse here in the foreground as I record this fox coming in using the HIKMICRO Thunder TQ50. The detail in this unit is phenomenal. This video here really doesn't do it justice. The Super AMOLED display in the eyepiece is much crisper, even when you zoom into 4 times here, and this fox is still well over 200 yards at this point. You know, in the eyepiece you could see plenty of detail in here. Bear in mind, when I take the shot, it's at 125 yards. It gives you some indication as to how far it had come in from. And again, on the black hot setting here, you could see every detail. Those trees are some 600 plus yards away. You know, fields around here are very broad, and this unit can just see so far. It's super impressive.
I don't know if that's the mate to the fox that we got here the other week. It didn't look overly big. Yeah. Where is it? Oh, it's right here. Dog. Yeah. Size one as well. That's a good size, isn't it?
No, you won't.
No. He was ready for some action. Vixen in heat call on the. Oh, he's got a big tail on him, hasn't he?
So that was the first bit of foxing action that Rick had observed through the Gryphon, and he told me he was suitably impressed. A little did we know as we carried on throughout the night that we would bump into several more foxes around the shoot. I honestly do not know where they all come from. Anyway, I take this dog fox here first, as the vixen's already started to make her way off. I'm shouting here, oi, oi, and I think I eventually stopped it with a bark. So I take the shot. I forgot to measure the distance on that one because I was too busy concentrating on where the vixen was going. And as you'll see from the timestamp here, we headed her off around the headland on the field, and she tuck-tailed and ran in the other direction. But I did measure this one, and at 197 yards, I pinned that one through the shoulder as 2 bits of fluff fall down. We kept bumping into more foxes, but a little later on it would be before we met the next pair. This one here mooching around or mousing in a field again several hundred yards away. I flick the vixen in heat call onto the HIKMICRO GC500. Again, I'll fast forward this clip here for you, but the fox makes his way in our direction, trying to scent us on the wind, but silhouetted against a tree using a little bit of fieldcraft, it comes in a treat. Notice the timestamp there as that one goes down at 120 yards. It's 11:29. I turn round and start talking to Rick about just how well that one had come in, and all of a sudden I flick around with a thermal and see another fox making his way up the dike, much closer this time, and I'm pretty certain that he's already seen us here. But I hadn't cycled a bolt, so I'm quickly fumbling around trying to do it quietly, get ready and take the shot without zooming in on that one, and that one went down a little closer at 104 yards. I was convinced it would be a dog and a vixen. As you can see, bits flying off that one there. A very definitive shot indeed.
If it's another dog and a vixen, that'll be a real score. And that's number 6 and number 7 for the night. Third left and right of the evening. I see bits fly off that one in the thermal. Another big one. Oh, he's a big lad, isn't he?
It's not as big as that 15-pounder.
No. The other one definitely looked smaller. So, there's the truck. Maybe there's something there. Oh. Just there. Not far apart, were they? Another cracking looking fox.
Another dog.
Another dog. Maybe it was the mating call. Left and right. What a result. What a result. The old Hick thermal spotted that one coming in.
Now, far be it from me to be greedy, but I suppose sometimes foxing's a bit like fishing. You've always got to have one last cast. So myself and Rick decided to flick over on one farm that we hadn't been to for a while, and sure enough, see a fox just coming from the cover across the dike. The first shot, you'd never believe it, and I can't show it because it's far too graphic for the snowflakes on online here, but it had almost disemboweled the fox, but I did make sure it gave it another one there at 185 yards. And just as I arrive home, pretty much on the field very near my house, I see a dot all by itself in a field miles off. I gave it a squeak, just to see what the dot's reaction was, and could very plainly see as it came into some 300 plus yards that it was indeed a fox. I carried on squeaking, and this one just read the rule book and came in an absolute treat. Now, I very nearly took the fox here, and just as I was about to squeeze the trigger, I decided the body language of the fox looked like it was still fairly committed. So I waited until this point to take the shot at 147 yards, and that made it a fantastic evening's work of 9 foxes down. We were only able to pick up 8 of the foxes initially because one of them was the other side of a brook, of which Rick went back the next day. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to please take care, stay safe, have a very Merry Christmas, and as always, happy shooting. I'll see you in the next one.